Hello, and welcome to Factorio Rampant Pyanodon Season 6, Episode 2. Last episode we got on rails, and this episode, let's actually put something on those rails. Okay, so what should the first thing on the rails be? One might think, we need to fuel the trains with something, and it's probably a coal byproduct. So simply get a train station, the provider train station, and place it next to the coal and have a coal provider station, and it's on the rails because that's the point of rails that makes it really simple, right? That would make a lot of sense, right? And next to it I have copper and iron and stone and carriage and aluminum, and I could give each of those a provider station, right? So one provider station for each of the items, nice and simple, probably done with no thinking at all. But then I thought I had a thought, and it was a pretty good thought. It was a thought that took me about 3 hours to come up with, and another like 3 hours to design afterwards. But the thought was that my rail stations are highly specialized in multi-item. This means that they operate better as multi-item providers than they do as individual ones. This is due to the fact that the storage containers on either side only store exactly what they need. So 10 stacks on each side for 20 stack per rail, 100 stack per 5 cargo wagon train. If they didn't do that, then they could falsely call a train when one storage container was more full than the other. And I could probably fix this issue by making it so that the station only activates if each individual chest has enough items, and I was toying around with that, but circuits are a bit of a pain, and they take space, so I figured what I had was good enough for now. Anyway, since my stations are specialized in multi-item, I thought instead of placing down one station for each of the items we want to provide, we can instead place down 6 stations that all provide all 6 items all at the same time. You can argue that there's an efficiency gain to be had here, because if one provider item spikes, then there will be 6 stations available to provide that instead of just the one. On average, it's still 6 items, 6 stations, which means 1 item per station, but that was the original plan. However, I kept feature creeping my design over time, and the end result was an 8-station sushi station with 6 regular providers, 1 priority excess provider to get rid of the excess carriage in, and 1 coal gas requester to mine the aluminum ore. I did a lot of tinkering with circuits in order to get, a sushi belt to allow the stations to fill up on both sides without jamming, with up to 6 circuits each. I invented this 6-lane right-angle splitter, and I also built a small pie crane powered buffer to store some excess carriage in. Otherwise, I spend a ton of time decorating to make sure that the build looks good. There's good RoboPort coverage this time, and I forgot the lights, didn't I? I am going to go fix those right now. Anyways, this temporary lab setup is in the way, so I go ahead and move it. And in the process, it was so annoying that I actually managed to craft my first personal RoboPort now that my companion drones are gone. Okay, and now we can place down the Alaska roll station. All right, and we're all done building, and I absolutely love bots yet again. This is the Alaska Roll Station. We're naming it the Alaska Roll because it is a sushi station, and I'm going to go alphabetically in naming all my sushi stations. So first one is A for Alaska Roll. Every time I place down a bunch of power poles, I'm able to release a bunch more aerial turbines into the system, so this is me letting them go. And then after that, I just kind of connect it up to the existing rail grid. And it looks absolutely beautiful. All I got to do now is set up the mining stations and then connect up the mining outputs to the sushi station. So next up, I configure some splitters to be able to help prioritize the stations. Just because every station can take every item doesn't mean we want them to all fill up at the same rate. We use splitters to prioritize a station for each item to ensure that the stations are filled up one at a time rather than all at once and slowly. This also helps spread the trains out because if we didn't do anything, the first station would have all items available and would get like 10 trains sent to it at the same time. Doing this will help spread the trains out a little bit and yeah. Anyways, plugging in builds in Factorio is always such a treat. Please enjoy like a minute of B-roll. All right, this thing is an absolute thing of beauty. I think I stared at it for like over 45 minutes straight, but yeah, it's here, it's done, and next up, I have to make the fuel for the rail grid. And you might be thinking, oh, Vic, why don't you just use rock wool? It's simple and already on the rails. But if you couldn't already tell by the Alaska roll, I don't always go with the simplest option. For this rail grid, I would like to use the most energetically dense material available to me right now, within reason, to ensure minimum stoppages for refueling. Rock coal has a fuel value of 3 megajoules, and with some processing, we can turn it into coarse coal. And that has a fuel value over 3 times denser at 10 megajoules. So we will definitely be processing our rock coal into coarse coal and then using that. Okay, so this is the coarse coal build. It takes about, to make 1 coarse coal per second, we need 2 automated screeners and 6 secondary crushers. We take 6 raw coal per second, turn it to crushed coal, and coal dust, and then we take the 2 crushed coal per second and turn that into coarse coal and coal. So about a 1-to-3 ratio of automated screeners to secondary crushers. So I try out a bunch of different configurations and I realize a line is the best method. Once I get the throughput good with that, I make the mistake of copy pasting it 5 times because I'm like, ooh, I have, 5 bins. Why don't I just do this 5 times? So now I'm making 5 a second, which is about 10 automated screeners and 30 secondary crushers, which is a little bit more than I had originally anticipated. I get the middle part all working, and then I'm like, ooh, I have to separate the coarse coal with the coal and the coal dust byproducts, so I kind of split it off. Then I have these 2 5x5 balancers, and yeah, at this point I admit that I go a little crazy because now I add in a rail with a bridge over the top because I'm like, I haven't used those yet, and then I place the stations down, and I can't really find a place to place a station, and then I think this is pretty much where I leave off for the day. The main issue came because I had the provider station from the right side, and then it went through the stuff, and it spit out all the outputs to the left side. But what if I had it all on the same side? And that's what I decided to do. So I have 2 primary stations. I have a mixed station to request raw coal and provide coarse coal. And then I have a provider station for all the excess materials. And then I alter the system, like the actual factory bit to the left side, to ensure that the raw coal and the coarse coal and all the other byproducts come in and out the same direction. And it works. It actually works really well. So I reduced the footprint by quite a bit, and I'm pretty happy with it. And then I do a lot of testing on it. I even get the ratio down for the storehouses, and then testing throughput. And then at this point, I basically spend like 45 minutes cleaning up decorations. I also add lights and roboports and just make sure that the throughput is working. And Yeah, I mean this is pretty much the final build. In the end, it ended up a little bit big, but I already essentially redid it twice, so I think this is probably going to be good enough for me. Anyways, I sort of just bam bam. I can also show some of the work in between. Okay, and with that, we have finished our coarse coal processing. That is fuel processing off the list, and that pretty much brings us to the end of the episode. So I want to give a big thanks to my patrons, John Boy, Sterling, Arrow6, and Hollow. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you guys in the next episode.